Second half of our program today from the co-host of the Border Patrol on 810 Sports Radio, Stephen St. John. Stephen, great to have you as always. Let's jump right in. Tigers have their opener this week against Central Michigan. As Desiree just said, this won't be a walk in the park. Head coach Jim McElwain, of course, was at Florida. They have 10 returning stars on defense. What do you think?
First of all, I don't know why you guys don't like me anymore, because you're making me follow her, which is awful for everyone that's watching right now. That's, you look at me on the Zoom after listening to her speak for half an hour, it makes you want to punch your screen. So I don't blame you if you do. She was awesome, wasn't she? She was fantastic.
She was.
Well, Missouri's favored by 14. Look, I've been around college football long enough to know you never overlook a MAC school. And like you said, they have a good coach. And so, I don't care about style points. All I care about is whether or not they win the football game. If you're asking me specifics, I would take the under. And I like Mizzou by 17, something like that. But like I said, it's and the other thing you gotta, I think, guard against is that second game is at Kentucky, and I think that's huge. That was one of my favorite moments last year during that post-game interview with Coach Drinkwitz after the Kentucky game. And I'm paraphrasing. Remember when the reporter said, no one on your roster had beaten Kentucky, and he stopped her. He goes, "Let me correct you. Everyone on our roster has not beaten Kentucky." And that was a big win. That was a big game. And that's one of the things that Barry Odom couldn't do is beat Kentucky. And so you wouldn't think they'd be looking ahead the first game of the season. Boy, you don't want to look past the MAC team, and you don't want to think about anything but Saturday, because that next game, it is tough. Like I'm looking ahead to it. I don't have to play, so it doesn't matter. But at Kentucky, if they can get wins in these first two games, boy, this schedule is set up to where if things go right, I mean, it's not out of the question to see them 6-0 hosting Texas A&M, and that might be the game of the week that week. Now, obviously, Tennessee's going to be tough at Boston College. You're on the road, anything can happen. But the schedule's right there. It's Coach Barnett was on my show last week, and he said he loves the schedule. And he said this is the best schedule that Mizzou's had in a long time in football, with a chance to succeed, with a chance to have success. And so get off to a fast start, and who knows where this could take Mizzou.
We asked Desiree in our first half hour about the name, image, and likeness and how it's going to change college athletics. What are you seeing from a reporter's view on what's going to happen with this, and where is college athletics going?
That's above my pay grade. I mean, who knows? I don't even, I'm a co-host with a guy that's a KU grad. My producer is a KU fan, and so they don't even know what conference they're going to be in next year. And so name, image, and likeness, I think you're going to see creative universities, creative athletic departments take advantage of it. But, there's just not enough. It's a small sample size. There's not enough information to know how it's going to impact college sports. But, overall, who'd have thought 23 years ago when I started this job, where things would be right now. Mizzou would be in the SEC, the Big 12 would be falling apart, and we'd have all these different ideas and name, image, and likeness and everything else happening with college sports. It's almost too much to keep up with, but your guess is as good as mine. We're going to see it evolve, and I'm like everyone else. We're watching this happen in real time in front of our eyes, and who knows what college football or what college sports are going to be like in 5 years. Who knows?
We're talking with Stephen St. John of Sports Radio 810. Of course, he's co-host of the Border Patrol each morning with KU guy Nate Bucati, and they balance each other well. If you'd like to ask Stephen a question, please use the chat feature at the bottom of the screen. Stephen, I want to talk a little about the Chiefs going through their cuts today. I saw Darwin Thompson was cut. You may even have some updated information since then. And Yasir Durant, former Mizzou player, was traded to New England for a 7th-round pick. Any other surprises so far?
I keep looking down at my phone because the Mizzou football depth chart that I've been waiting for anxiously is now out. So that's available. And then, like you said, we keep finding out more about Chiefs cuts because the 53-man deadline is at 3:00. Wasn't surprised that Darwin Thompson got cut. I thought I spent a week and a half up in St. Joe going to practice every day. And so early on, I felt pretty strongly about the Chiefs wanting to keep 4 tight ends because, you got Kelsey. They brought back Blake Bell, who fits very well into this team. He helped to win a Super Bowl championship. They love the 5th-round pick, Noah Gray, out of Duke. And Jody Fortson has been this guy that's been on the edge, on the verge of making the team last couple of training camps. Former wide receiver that's converted to tight end, 6'6", 240. And he just looked like a different player in camp. And he's not a bad blocker, but a really interesting weapon that Andy Reid could utilize. So I felt like it was going to be 4 tight ends. They have tremendous depth at offensive line. They have 11, and this is before even talking about Yasir Durant. They had 11 guys with starting experience. I mean, the second string right now is 3 guys that started in the Super Bowl. Austin Blythe, who was the Rams starting center last year, and Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, who came back from opting out, who started for the Chiefs when they won a championship. And then you got Kyle Long on the PUP list, who will be out for the first 6 weeks. And so instead of keeping 9 offensive linemen, they're going to keep 10 offensive linemen. They're going to keep 10 defensive linemen. So the numbers weren't there to keep 4 running backs. So even though Darwin Thompson and that Gore kid performed pretty well in training camp, there just wasn't a spot for them to make it on the team. As far as Yasir Durant, I think that's, first of all, a huge compliment to the depth that I just described on the offensive line for the Chiefs. It's incredible. Are they overcompensating for what happened in the Super Bowl? Well, yes, of course they are, because they should, because that's the only thing that kept the Chiefs from winning another Super Bowl championship. They were decimated by injury, and they could never, ever let that happen again. And as you can see, they won't, because they have tremendous depth right there at the offensive line. And so Yasir Durant was going to have a very difficult time making this football team. He plays multiple positions. They've spent time and money developing him. And so I could see why another team would have interest in him. And so that's why you saw the Patriots, who they know linemen, and they know linemen that are taking 6th, 7th round or undrafted free agents. They've had a lot of success there. So I think that says a lot about Yasir Durant. He gets traded to New England for a 7th round pick, and it works out well for him because he can make the team, and it works out well for the Chiefs because they had a draft pick.
Well, he was an undrafted free agent. He was a serviceable player last year, and they flipped him for a draft pick. I think it worked well, and I think it's good for his future. I was listening to your interview yesterday with Adam Teicher, and it's so refreshing. We're sitting here worrying about who's going to be the 4th running back or the backup tight end. The Chiefs don't have a lot to worry about. I mean, obviously, things can happen during the season, but this team looks very talented and very deep.
Look, I mean, they're always going to be a Super Bowl contender with Patrick Mahomes, quarterback, and with a future Hall of Famer like Travis Kelce at tight end, and one of the best receivers in football in Tyreek Hill. But the whole thing's Mahomes. I mean, it's like I said, almost a decade and a half of doing this, and we used to dream about having a quarterback, anything close to this for years and years. That's what held back the Chiefs, and now they literally have the best quarterback in football, and a guy that, when it's all said and done, may have an argument to be the greatest quarterback to ever play. And so whenever you have that, you're a contender. But then they've done a great job of roster building. Like I said, what they did with the offensive line. They drafted this kid that we saw play Tennessee, Trey Smith, in the 6th round. He fell out of the he was projected to go maybe in the 2nd or 3rd round. He fell because he had blood clot issues. They examined him closely in his case and made sure that they felt comfortable about it. They draft him in the 6th round. And from day one, he goes out and wins the job at training camp. And some people up there described him as the most athletic offensive lineman on the field, which is saying something considering how much they've invested. But that just goes to show you that they've done a very good job. L'Jarius Sneed in the 4th round last year could end up being a top 10 corner this year. They've done a very nice job of building the roster around Patrick Mahomes. But when you start with Mahomes, Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Tyrann Mathieu, Chris Jones, that nucleus, that's a pretty good start to taking a step towards getting back to the Super Bowl. But honestly, I believe this is the best roster they've had since Andy Reid's been here, and the best roster that Patrick Mahomes has had to work with. So I fully anticipate them getting back to the Super Bowl and winning it again.
Do you see us starting 3 rookies on the offensive line?
Oh yeah, there's no question. I mean, again, when they drafted Creed Humphrey out of Oklahoma, he was a starter from day one. They love him, and he looked like a 10-year vet up at training camp. Same thing for Trey Smith. He came in, he was supposed to battle LDT. LDT was not running with the ones. He was already losing the battle. Then he broke his hand, and that ended that debate. The only guy that was up in the air was Lucas Niang, who was a third-round pick out of TCU the previous year. He opted out due to COVID last year. He was coming back from hip surgery, but this is a guy that was wildly talented. A lot of defenders that went up against him when he was at TCU said that he was a first-round talent. He comes into camp and he wows everybody. Mike Remmers had some back issues, missed the first couple of weeks of camp. Lucas Niang went out there, and again, he absolutely won the job. And that's why I feel pretty comfortable about the Chiefs starting these rookie offensive linemen. Number one, Andy Reid knows offensive line. And number two, they each had a solid veteran to battle against to win the job. The keys just weren't handed to them. But from day one, they were the better players in camp. They were the better players in practice. And if you add in Joe Tooney, the big money addition at guard, and then Orlando Brown, who they traded for to play left tackle, if this thing goes right and they don't get hurt by the end of the year, you could be looking at a top 3 or top 4 offensive line in all of football.
I think everybody on this Zoom call was very excited last year to see the Chiefs take Nick Bolton with their first pick, second round. Where do you see Nick fitting in this year? How big a role will he play?
Well, they're going to keep 5 linebackers, I think, unless I'm surprised before 3 o'clock. Anthony Hitchens and Willie Gay Jr., the second-round pick from last year, that's going to be your starters. And then Nick Bolton is going to be your number 3 guy. He'll share time with Ben Niemann. They feel comfortable with Ben Niemann, but Ben Niemann isn't the athlete or the linebacker that Nick Bolton is. Dave Tobe raved about Nick Bolton and his addition to special teams. Dorian O'Daniel will be the other linebacker, but he's predominantly a special teams guy. And so they trust Nick Bolton. They're going to play him in a lot of different ways. And you're going to see him play early and often. And so that's another thing that's really, I think, going to help the Chiefs and this defense make a big step forward. They've added young athletic linebackers in the second round, the last 2 drafts, in Willie Gay and Nick Bolton. Gay, of course, battled those injury problems down the stretch, and he was unable to play in the playoffs. But a healthy Willie Gay looked tremendous in camp. Nick Bolton, when I was up there, he had a pick 6 of Patrick Mahomes and then another interception the next day. And so, boy, that doesn't put a couple of feathers in your cap as a rookie in training camp. But you add him to the mix, and eventually I think he'll take over for Anthony Hitchens as the leader in that linebacking group. Maybe as early as next year, you could see them move on from Hitchens because of money. But right now, he's going to play a lot, and those top 3 linebackers, I think, are a dramatic improvement over what the Chiefs had. They've been looking for young athletic linebackers to fill that role of Derek Johnson, and now they might have 2 of them.
What team do you see as the Chiefs' biggest challenge in the AFC to get to the Super Bowl?
Boy, this sounds terrible, but man, I don't think anyone's going to challenge them in the AFC. I think their biggest challenge will come in the Super Bowl. The Buffalo Bills are probably the second best team, but as you saw last year, both in Buffalo and then in Kansas City, that's a bad matchup for the Bills. They don't have the personnel to hang with the Chiefs. They tried to prevent the Chiefs from going over the top up in Buffalo and gave them the run game, and that's when Clyde Edwards-Helaire had over 160 yards. And so, they tried to force the ball out of Mahomes' hands, and it didn't work. They just ran the heck out of the ball and beat him up in Buffalo. And then you saw Mahomes go wild on him in the AFC Championship game. The Cleveland game was close in the divisional playoffs. They have a lot of talent, but I think it's volatile. And you remember Mahomes went out of that game early, and Chad Henne came in, and they still won the game. If Mahomes doesn't get hurt, I think they win more comfortably by double digits. The Ravens are a very talented team, but Lamar Jackson in the playoffs is not very good. They're a good regular season team, but he flames out in the playoffs. I just don't think, a Lamar Jackson quarterback team can score enough points to beat the Chiefs in the postseason, because that's just a different animal. And so, those are the usual suspects. I think Ben Roethlisberger's too old for Pittsburgh to be much of a factor. Outside of that, I think the Chiefs own the AFC as long as Mahomes is healthy. And then when you get to the Super Bowl, well, a rematch against the Bucs would be fantastic. The Packers would be a terrific matchup. There's a lot of really good teams in the NFC that in a one-game scenario could beat the Chiefs like what happened last year. But, man, I just don't see anyone in the AFC able to unseat them as AFC champs.
I saw the Ravens lost their running back Dobbins this week last week in an exhibition game with a torn ACL. That had to be a pretty big blow for them.
Oh, absolutely. They have Gus Edwards, who's a good backup, but J.K. Dobbins, a lot of people felt like he was a big candidate for a breakout year. But, at the end of the day, they're going to be able to run the football. But when it gets to the postseason, there's going to be a game, whether it's in the wild card or the divisional round, where Lamar Jackson has to win the game throwing the football. And to this point, he hasn't shown that he can do that. And so it is going to hurt them. Now they signed Sammy Watkins. Sammy struggles to stay healthy. If he's healthy, he'll help the football team. But I don't think that's enough to get them over the Kansas City hump.
We're going to go to some questions here in just a minute. Before we do, I want to ask you, normally we wouldn't be too excited about a team that's 12 games under 500. Salvi, I got to ask you about Sal Perez. What he is doing is just unbelievable, especially at his age. I think before he's done, he'll be the second best Royal of all time behind George Brett. I stayed up late and watched the games this last week just to watch him. What are your thoughts on him?
Okay, so I've said that on my show. I already think he is the second best Royal of all time behind George Brett. World Series MVP, 5 Gold Gloves. Now he's hit more home runs in one season than any catcher in American League history, and he has a chance. He has 38, and the overall record is 45 by Johnny Bench. He can catch that. And this is a guy that he's starred on the biggest stage in the playoffs. In the postseason, he has one of the most dramatic hits in Royals history with that game-winning hit in the wild card game. And like I said, World Series MVP. And on top of that, what a fantastic ambassador for baseball and for Kansas City. Can you think in the last 10 years, have you ever seen him mad? Have you ever seen him with a frown? Have you ever seen him anything but laughing and enjoying baseball the way a professional athlete should? He's a tremendous guy to interview. He's a tremendous person to be around. And so I think he's every chance now to be in the Hall of Fame when it's all said and done. I think he's a future Hall of Famer as long as he stays healthy. Because at this pace, this is uncharted territory. If you'd have told me a couple of years ago we're going to be talking about him hitting 40-plus home runs, I'd have thought you were crazy. And so it's like he missed all of 2019 with Tommy John surgery, and then could only play in a handful of games because of the abbreviated season last year. And that ended up being a blessing in disguise because he caught so many games and had so many nagging injuries. And that's a guy they've had to talk out of playing winter baseball. He always wants to play baseball. And so by force, because of that Tommy John surgery, he had to give himself almost a full year of rest. And I think that put a lot of miles back on his legs. And also for someone that loves baseball as much as he does, when it was taken away from him, not that he needed it rekindled, but that made him love baseball even when he said that. He said, once it got taken away from me, I couldn't wait. I was going to do anything I can to get back on the field and to keep myself from getting hurt. So he's done different things to try to make his body more flexible, to make his body have more endurance to hold up to the long season. And the Royals are going to DH him more moving forward and give him an opportunity to rest here and there, maybe catch him only 120 games in a season. But he's got tonight, if he hits a home run, then he'll break the Royals record. He's got a home run in 5 consecutive games. He tied the record with Mike Sweeney from 2002. So if he hits a home run tonight, that's another record. It's unbelievable. And that's why I tell people all the time, having done this long enough when the teams were terrible and we didn't have guys that we could rally around, for this town right now to have 2 faces of the franchises like Patrick Mahomes and Salvador Perez, man, I hope people don't take it for granted, because those kind of guys like that don't come around very often, and they just happen to be here both at the same time in the same town, and it's wonderful.
Okay, ready for some questions. How do you see the Big 12 situation playing out?
I don't know. I hope it keeps going because I like to torment Nate about it. Because I had him first, he talked himself in. He wanted to be in the Mountain West, and then all the KU fans crushed him. And then he wanted to be in the ACC, and then that didn't seem to work. And then now he's resigned to the Big Ten, even though everyone we talked to from the Big Ten doesn't want Kansas. So it's been a lot of fun to see it from this side. The only thing I hate about it is obviously a Kansas Cityan. Losing the Big 12 tournament would be a gut punch, to the community. And it's look, I grew up going, we all love the Big 8 tournament, going to the Big 8 tournament. And that's the only thing I always really miss about Mizzou leaving. I don't get a chance to go to the Big 12 tournament and have fun and watch Mizzou play. But I would hate for Kansas City to lose the Big 12 tournament. But again, who knows? My answer last week is different than my answer now. And who knows what the answer is going to be in a couple of weeks. Maybe they try to keep the Big 12 together and add Houston, Central Florida, Memphis, or BYU, or insert team here, Cincinnati. There was that wild rumor out there from Dave Wannstedt, the former Bears coach and Pitt coach, who went on a radio station in Chicago, and he's clearly speaking out of turn. He said he was at the Fox meetings in Arizona and said that he heard that Kansas State was going to go to the Pac-12, and that Kansas and Iowa State were going to go to the Big Ten, and West Virginia was going to the ACC. I think Oklahoma State would be going to the Pac-12 as well. It sounds crazy, but then again, if it happened, I mean, you can't put anything out of the realm of possibility right now with realignment. But I like things in limbo right now, just so I can have my fun every morning.
But the one point you made, it would not be good for Kansas City if we lose that tournament.
No,
sure. So.
No, and I'd hate to see that.
Tomorrow, September 1st, do you expect to see one or more of Bobby Witt Jr., MJ Melendez, Nick Prado making their debuts this season? They can only add two. They can only add two this year, right? They
can only add two. One of them's Mondesi is gonna come back for rehab. How long that lasts, his rehab appearance? But yeah, I at one point I thought we'd see one. I don't think we're gonna see one of them now. We had Annie Rogers from MLB.com. She covers the Royals. She used to cover Mizzou as well. And we asked her that same question today, and she said, "Look, the minor league season's longer now, so they play deeper into the season, and so you're not going to have these prospects just sitting around for a month after the minor leagues are over. They play all through September, and so and it's not that big of a deal, but they're in contention at AAA. But yeah, I don't know that we're going to see Bobby Witt or Melendez or Prado before the end of the year. At one point, I thought we'd see Witt for sure, and who knows? Maybe the Royals surprise me and they call him up tomorrow, but everyone that I've asked seem to think that we won't see them until next year.
Yeah, I think they'll call up a pitcher in one of those spots for sure, and Mondesi the other. But Coach Drinkwitz just said in his press conference, "I'm not promising victories or anything like that every Saturday, but it's time to get the fans here. Let's see what this thing can be." We need the fans to step up now, don't we?
Yes, and again, like Central Michigan, that's a good football program. They got a good coach. It's a MAC school. And college football is littered with teams that looked past a MAC opponent early in the season and got bit. So hopefully, I think Mizzou's going to win. But yeah, I mean, the fans need to go out there. And I mean, like, what else could you ask of Eli Drinkwitz so far? I mean, how much fun has it been to watch recruiting and to see the players flip and to see the kids from St. Louis that are interested in Mizzou and to talk about the number one receiver in the nation being interested in Mizzou after he decommitted from Oklahoma. And so I feel like every time that he's on the microphone, he gets me more fired up to watch Mizzou football and what the future holds. And so, yeah, I think the missing ingredient there is to get as many people as they can into the games and make it a real hostile environment for a team like Central Michigan. And look, I will forever, that's the joy of being a sports fan. I was talking about it today, that you get that sick feeling in the pit of your stomach when it's like the first game of the season and you think but you don't really know, and you don't know too much about the opponent, and it's a team you're supposed to beat, but they're good enough to scare you a little bit. It's like it makes you feel alive. You know what I mean? And so it's almost like that feeling you get in the first round of the NCAA tournament when you're the 12 seed and you're playing the 5, or you're the 5 seed and you're playing the 12. Like, hey, we're supposed to beat them, but they're a 12 seed and they're pretty good, and you can't even enjoy it until the damn game's over. I'm not saying I'm going to that extreme, but I am already nervous about Central Michigan. I need to allow myself to enjoy the process and enjoy this game. But knowing me the way you guys do, I will be sick to my stomach until about 7:30 on Saturday because I just want to see him win, and then we can move on and then talk about Kentucky.
All right. One other question about the NFL. Were you surprised to see the Pats release Cam Newton today?
I'm surprised they released him, but I'm not surprised that they're starting Mac Jones because I said, I'd start him last week. First of all, and this is just the truth. One of the reasons why he got released is he's not vaccinated. And it puts an NFL team, the way the NFL has laid down the law, it puts an NFL team at a competitive disadvantage, right? And he missed a couple of weeks. He missed practice,
yeah,
because of that. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you that Bill Belichick doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that likes to deal with stuff like that when he has a quarterback that hasn't done everything he can do to put himself on the football field, right? And so he was up against it then. And then, oh, by the way, Mac Jones comes up and just lights everything up in the preseason. And he feels like this is the guy that can absolutely run the system. There's not a better coach at tailoring his system to a specific quarterback's needs, maybe say for Andy Reid, than Bill Belichick. And with Cam Newton, that was all. And there's, I think, like a $1.5 million roster bonus and another workout bonus. So you save that money, you move on, and you're going to go to Mac Jones anyway. Just like if I'm a Bears fan, I'm not watching as long as Andy Dalton's a starting quarterback. It's a waste of time for the Bears, for Andy Dalton, for everyone. Justin Fields should start, and let's go. Now, I know the Chiefs went the other way, but the Chiefs had Alex Smith to mentor Patrick Mahomes. Andy Dalton's not Alex Smith. Cam Newton's not Alex Smith. You got to have the guy that's willing and the guy that will command respect in the locker room. And so I'm surprised they cut him, but I'm not surprised Mac Jones starting. But then again, Cam Newton doesn't strike me as he'd be a willing participant to be a backup. And so maybe that makes sense for everybody. But that's where the NFL is headed. Young quarterbacks don't have to sit for a year or two, especially with as much spread offenses and the way they throw the football now in college football. Young quarterbacks are more game ready when they get drafted.
Well, Stephen, we're getting near the end of the hour. I wish we could talk to you more, but we need to be respectful of your time, and really appreciate you being flexible today to accommodate Desiree. So it was a very productive hour, I thought. Yeah, had you had a chance to listen to her before today?
Yeah, I had with the press conference. I listened to all of that, and I was really. I'll just leave you with this little small anecdote that I shared on my radio show. I thought one of the coolest things about it. And so we're sitting in my office when the news came out that she was going to be the hire. And for most of you know that I'm Mexican American. My grandparents on my mom's side were from Mexico, and my mom was first generation, born in the United States. And so I'm watching this, and of all my kids, the one that likes to watch sports the most with me is one of my twin daughters. Her name's Selena. Loves sports. If there's anyone that's going to follow in my footsteps, it's going to be her, right? Loves playing basketball. She loves everything about it. And she knows we're Mizzou fans, and we don't like Kansas and Kansas State when it comes to sports, and that's it. And she's my right-hand gal when we're watching sports. And so I call her over, they go, look at this. Mizzou's new AD, not only is she female, but look, she's Hispanic, just like you. And her eyes lit up so big, and she got the biggest smile on her face, and she says, so that means I could be the AD at Mizzou someday too. And I looked at her, I said, you're damn right. And that was like just the coolest thing. And look, it's more than that. She's so impressive. Her resume is terrific. But just to have that kind of impact, and I didn't even put two and two together. I just told her because she likes to hear all the sports news and stuff that I'm going to talk about. But to see the way that moment inspired a 12-year-old girl, boy, I bet you there's a lot of little sports-loving girls and boys all around the state of Missouri that love that hire. And I just thought that was awesome. And so I wanted to share that with you guys because I was super impressed with listening to her speak again today.
Great story. And what really came through to me today, she has a real passion for her job, and she has a vision, and I'm excited that we have her. Stephen, thank you. We will see you down the road. Everybody, thanks for tuning in today. Next week, we will be talking to Blair Kerkhoff from the Kansas City Star. He's, of course, the longtime college football and basketball reporter for the Star, and currently the Mizzou beat writer for football and basketball. So that'll wrap us up for today. We'll see you at noon next week. And then 2 weeks from today, we will have Howard Richards, of course, the color analyst on the Mizzou Football Network. Hey, everybody, enjoy your week, and let's get a win, MIZ.